Good day, everyone. By the way, we are the Group 8 and assigned to discuss the topic that is all about data concepts and characteristics. So, as the first reporter, I am going to discuss the data hierarchy and entities and entity relationships. So first, we will talk about the data hierarchy or the hierarchy of data. So what is data hierarchy? So it is a systematic organization of data, often in a hierarchical form. So from the word hierarchical form or hierarchy, the data is being arranged or presented into either ranks, orders, or layers. And in the world of computers or computing, data is classified in a hierarchy in which higher level of data consists of one or more items from the lower level. So depending on the application and also to the user, there are different terms to describe the various levels of the hierarchy. So data organization involves fields, records, files, and so on, as you can see in the picture. As I've said a while ago, there are different terms to describe the various levels of the data hierarchy. So first is the bit, the smallest unit of data in a computer. It has a single binary value, either 0 or 1. Next is the byte. It is a group of 8 bits in which each byte represents one character, which can be a number, letter, punctuation mark, space, and or other symbols. And in different contexts, other data such as sound, part of a picture, or etc. it can represent. Next, so as you can see in the picture, so there are 8 bits, which is the 10000100. So it represents letter F in the American Standard Code or information interchange. So next is the fields, a group of characters or bytes that has same meaning. So it is a combination of one or more related characters or bytes, and it is the smallest unit of data and user access. So as you can see in the picture, a field name uniquely identifies each field. So the key is their last name, so it identifies each field. Next is the records. So it is the composition or a group of various related fields. So in the sample picture, you can see a set of fields about one student. And that set of fields, such as the SSN, last and first name, and the higher data is what we call the records in the hierarchy of data. So next is the files. It is a combination or a collection of various related records that can be stored on a storage medium such as a hard disk or optical disk. So as you can see in a picture, it represents a sample personnel files in a particular association or a company. And the last name, the first name, it includes. So as you can see in the picture. So the last and the highest level in the data hierarchy is the database. So it is a collection of information that is organized in such manner so that it can be accessed, managed, and updated in the future. So it consolidates records previously stored in separate files into a common pool of data records that provides data for many applications. So as you can see in the picture, so it includes the personal file, so the different files or a collection of files, the personal file, the department file, and the payroll file. So now let's move and talk about entities and entity relationships. So let us first know and understand what is an entity. So entity is a person, object, or event of importance to the organization. So entities that the organization wants to share data about typically becomes a database table. The characteristics of an entity is what we call the attributes, and the association between two or more entities is what we call the relationship. So there are three types of entity relationships. So first is the one-to-one entity relationships. In this relationship, one entity is related to only one other entity of a particular type. So it is not a common type of entity. So as we can observe in the sample picture, student and student address have a one-to-one relationship or can be called 0 or 1, which means a student can have only 1 or 0 addresses. So the student reference navigation property into the student address entity, as you can see, and the student address navigation entity into the student entity. Also, the student address entity has both student ID property as primary key and foreign key, which makes it as a one-to-one type of entity relationship. The second type of entity relationships is the one-to-many entity relationships. So in this relationship, one entity can be related to more than one other entity. So that's why it is called one-to-many. So it is the most common type of entity. So in the sample picture, as we can see, the standard and the teacher entities have a one-to-many relationships marked by multiplicity or the asterisk sign symbol you observe in the teacher entity. So where 1 is for 1 and the asterisk symbol is for many. So this simply means that standard can have many teachers, whereas teacher can associate with only one standard. To represent this, the standard entity has the collection navigation property, which is the teachers, which indicates that one standard can have a collection of teachers. And the teacher entity has a standard navigation property, which indicates that teacher is associated with one standard. Also, it contains the standard ID foreign key in the standard entity, and this makes it as a one-to-many type of entity relationships. So the last and the third type of entity relationship is the many-to-many entity relationship. In this kind of relationship, one entity can be related to more than one other entity, and those entities can be related to multiple entities of the same type as the original entity. So in the picture, the student and course entity have a many-to-many relationship marked by multiplicity or the asterisk sign, as you can observe. So it simply means that one student can enroll for many courses, and also one course can be taught to many students. In addition, the student entity includes the collection navigation property, which is the courses, and the course entity includes the collection navigation property or the students that make it to represent many-to-many relationships between them. So summary. So data hierarchy is a systematic organization of data. So there are 5 levels in a data hierarchy: the bit, byte, fields, records, files, and the databases. So entity is a person, object, or event of importance to the organization. So and there are 3 types of entity relationships: the one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many relationships. So that was all of my report about the data hierarchy and entities and entity relationships.
Good day everyone. So now let us also discuss the data concepts and the data characteristics with the topic of data definition and the data dictionary. So let us discuss first the data definition. Data definition is the process of describing the properties of data to be included in database table. This is the process of how we can describe or how we can detail the properties of the data inputting in the database table. During data definition, each field is assigned name. The name must be unique within the table, and the name must be started with letters and not contains of space and reserved words. And field for data type. A data type such as text, number, currency, date, or time. Then field assigned for descriptions. The description is optional of the field. Then have the field assigned for properties, the size, format of the field, allowable range, the field is required, etc. So the field in the database table is the components that provide structures for the table. Without this field, without this component, which is the name, data type, description, and properties, you cannot make your database table. And finished specification for table become your table structure. So we have the field name example. So the field name must contain the first name, last name, and the street address. This is our field name in this example. This is only example of the field name. Then example of data type. The data type for the adaptation data field is date and time. So this is a data type example. So is a sign of date and time for the adaptation of date. And we have these illustrations of data definitions. Figure 14.4. Now, as you can observe, as you can see, each field in the database has a defined data type and properties that can be assigned to that field. So we have the data field assigned for name, data field assigned for data type and descriptions. We have the table structures, which specify the fields under characteristics. Now the different fields has different characteristics assigned on that field, and have this table data. The table data is entered into the table in the appropriate fields. So a new record can be added here. It would become the 6th record name. And now let's talk about data dictionary. The data dictionary contains of data definitions in a database, including table structures, security information, passwords, etc., relationships between the tables in the database, basic informations about each table, such as the current number of records. So the data dictionary is all the data definitions, all the properties of the database in our data table. It is called a data dictionary, including these table structures, security information, relationships between the tables in a database, and the basic informations about table, like current numbers of records. The data dictionary does not contain any of the data in the tables. It only contains the metadata, which is the information about the database table. ensures that data being entered into the database does not violate any specific criteria. And now we have these simple illustrations about data dictionary. So we have the data table. In this data table, we have the first row, which is employee's ID, first name, last name, in IN, leap ID, and so on. In each column, we have the appropriate rows. We have the rows for employee's ID, rows for first name, last name, and so on. So it says that the data dictionary does not contain any data in database table. So means when you say data, it is a simply content that can provide descriptions, measurement, or even report on anything related to an enterprise's data assets. So this data table is not our data dictionary, but this first row of data table is the what we call metadata, which is the data dictionary. So when you say metadata, it is the summarizing basic information about data, making, finding, and working with particular instances of data. Metadata can be created manually to be more or automatically and contain more basic information. So in this data table, we have this first row, which is what we call the metadata, which summarizing the basic informations about this all table. And I think that is all for my topic, and I hope you learn something.
Data integrity, security, and privacy data organization. Data integrity. It is an overall accuracy, completeness, and consistency of data. Data integrity also refers to the safety of data in regard to the regulatory compliance such as GDPR compliance and security. It is maintained by a collection of processes, rules, and standards implemented during the design phase. There are two types of data integrity. First, physical integrity. It means the protection of wholeness of the data as it's stored and retrieved. Second, logical integrity. It keeps the data unchanged as it's used in different ways in a relational database. There are four types of logical integrity. First, entity integrity. Relies on the creation of primary keys, the unique values that identify pieces of data, to ensure data that is not listed more than once, and that no field in a table is null. Second, referential integrity. It refers to the series of processes that make sure that data is stored and used uniformly. Third, domain integrity. It is the collection of processes that ensure the accuracy of each piece of data in a domain. Fourth, user-defined integrity. It involves the rules and constraints created by the user to fit their particular needs. Data security is a set of processes and practices designed to protect your critical information technology ecosystem. There are 7 types of data security. First, access controls. It measures limiting both physical and digital access to critical systems and data. Second, authentication. It refers specifically to accurately identifying users before they have access to data. Third, backups and recovery. You'll need a backup data copy stored in a separate format such as physical disk, local disk, cloud to recover if needed. Fourth, data erasure. It completely overwrites data on any storage device and is more secure than standard data wiping. Fifth, data masking. By using data masking, information is hidden by obscuring letters and numbers with proxy characters. Sixth, data resiliency. Building resiliency in your hardware and software means that events like power outages or natural disasters won't compromise security. Seventh, encryption. A computer algorithm transforms text characters into an unreadable format via encryption keys. Privacy data organization. Privacy data is a branch of data management that deals with handling personal data in compliance with data protection laws, regulations, and general privacy. Elements of privacy data. First, right of an individual to be left alone and have control to their personal data. Second, procedures for handling, collecting, and sharing of personal data. And third, compliance with data protection laws.